Well, good morning, church. I missed you all yesterday morning. Had some things going on yesterday and had to run here and there and just had a busy day. And I guess I slacked a little bit. I missed you all though, but I'm back this morning. I referenced a story the other day, a couple of days ago, about the prodigal son. So I thought I'd just go over that story this morning, part of it anyway. It's in Luke chapter 15, beginning in verse 11. It says, and he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided them unto his living. And not many days after this, the younger son gathered all together, and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields to feed swine. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him, and had compassion on him, and ran and fell on his neck, and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat, and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. So we see the story of this young man, and it may remind you of the way a lot of kids are today. Seems like a lot of the kids this generation, they don't want to work. They don't want to have any kind of responsibilities, and they don't want anybody having authority over them. They just want to go and live their own life, do their own thing, and do what the world calls fun. And anymore seems like the world's motto is, if it feels good, do it. But he doesn't realize what it's really like out in the world until he gets out there. But he goes out and he just has party after party. You know, he's just out throwing his money around to his friends and just anybody that will come around and have anything to do with him. And he thinks that or feels like these people are truly his friends. And he's probably sending letters back home telling his dad and his brother that, man, this life is great, you know. It's just life is one big party out here. You all should come out here and join me. You'll have the time of your life. And for a season, he probably did have a time of his life. For a season, he enjoyed what he was doing. But then when the money runs out, your friends leave, and then when you don't have anything, you're pretty much stuck by yourself. You're stuck in a rut, so to say. He got down so bad that he didn't have no money to even buy anything to eat. He had no way to get anything to eat. He probably went to some of his friends that he'd spent so much money on and just handed out money and everything, and told them how he is down on his luck now and didn't have anything, and may have even asked some of them for a job or whatever. But since he didn't have no money left, they didn't want anything to do with him. And then the Bible says he went to the outside of town and found this pig farmer and told him that he would like to have a job. He was hungry and didn't have no way to get anything to eat. And the farmers he says tells him probably can't pay him, but if you can beat the pigs to it, you can eat here. And so here he is. He's in there feeding the swine and everything, and getting down in all this mud and slop, and it's just like a picture of the slop of the world, so to say. You get down into worldly things, and you just get covered up in filth, and because there's nothing good out there. Well, he was in there, and he got to thinking, and he was thinking to himself how good he had it at home. And that's another thing kids don't think about today, how good they do have it at home. They have a mom and dad that love them, maybe brothers and sisters, plenty of food to eat, all the luxuries that any kid would want. But yet they thought they still had to be out on their own and do what they wanted to do in order to live life, as they think. But after he was down on his luck, he got to thinking about all that, and he got really homesick, and just knowing how good he had it made. And so he got to think about all the servants that worked for his dad. You know, he thought, well, they have bread enough to eat and some left over, and they're in a much better place than I am. They're in better shape than I am. And so he decides to go back home and ask his father for forgiveness, and to tell him that he's not even worthy to be called his son anymore, but to ask him if he'll let him just come back and be as one of his hired servants, just in order to have something to eat. And so he starts back home, and I think while he's walking home, he's probably going over and over in his mind about what he's going to say, the plea he's going to make to his father. And getting ahead of myself a little bit, but getting back to when he was in feeding the pigs, on my footnote here, it says, according to Moses' law, pigs were unclean animals. This meant that they could not be eaten or used for sacrifices. To protect themselves from defilement, Jews would not even touch them. For a Jew to stoop to feeding pigs was a great humiliation, and for this young man to eat the food the pigs had touched was to be degraded beyond belief. The younger son had truly sank to the lowest depths. And so you can just imagine how he felt, and how down and out he was, and how awful he probably thought of himself. But during all this time, the father was at home, probably standing at the window just watching for his son, because he probably felt in his heart, or knew in his heart, that one day his son would return, simply because he was his son, and that's just how much he loved him. And so we see here that he goes back home, and it says that, let me find it here. Starting in verse 20 says, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, the father saw him, and had compassion, and ran and fell upon his neck, and kissed him. So the father was watching for him, as I was just saying. And when he saw him coming a great way off, the son didn't even get all the way to the house. The father ran out to meet him, and just grabbed him up and just hugged him and loved him and kissed him and just loving on him. He was so happy and excited because his son had come back home. And that's a picture of the way it is when some of us return back to God. You know, even as Christians, we can slip backwards a little bit sometimes, and get out of the will of God. And even though he's disappointed and displeased with us, he still won't leave us. He's still with us, but he's watching for us. He's expecting us to come back to him. He wants us to come back to him, and that's exactly what happened here. When he saw the son coming, he just, like I said, ran and grabbed him, loved on him, and was so excited because he came back. And says it often takes great sorrow and tragedy to cause people to look to the only one who can help them. Are you trying to live life your way, selfishly pushing aside any responsibility or commitment that gets in your way? Stop and look before you hit bottom and save yourself and your family much grief. You know, if we would do that, if we would think clearly before we do anything, we could save ourselves and our family a whole lot of trouble and a whole lot of grief. He was dealing with a human being with a will of his own, but he was ready to greet his son if he returned. In the same way, God's love is constant and waiting. He will search for us and give us opportunities to respond, but he does not force us to come to him. Like the Father, he waits patiently for us to come to our senses. God's great love reaches out and finds sinners no matter why or how they get lost. You know, when we get in the shape that we get in, it doesn't matter how we got there. It doesn't even matter why we got there. All that matters is that God is still watching you, and he is just waiting for you to turn and come back to him. So maybe somebody out there thinks that they've strayed away from God so far that they can't come back. Well, that's not true. There's no such thing. You can always come back to God if you will turn around and come back to him and surrender your life back to him. Ask him for forgiveness. God never gets tired of you asking him for anything. You will not aggravate God by continuously asking him for something. What will aggravate God is if you don't ask him for anything, is if you don't even talk to him. Talk to him every day. Ask him for forgiveness. We all fall short every day. So a lot of people say we sin daily. That's true in a sense, but not true in a sense. If you're a true Christian, you will strive not to sin. But sometimes we make mistakes, either because we just choose to do it, or sometimes ignorantly. We don't realize maybe at the time that what we've done we shouldn't have done. But whenever we do make a mistake, or if we sin, God will let you know right then. You will know instantly that you've messed up. But all it takes is a sincere heart of asking God to please forgive you. God, I've sinned. Please forgive me. Please let me come back into your graces. You know, God's love is never ending. And just as it's been said, his arm is not so short that it can't reach out to wherever you are. It doesn't matter where you are. All that matters is that you ask for forgiveness. I think this is one of the greatest stories in the Bible of compassion and love. And that's what God is. He is all compassionate and he is all loving. And you will never find a better father than God. He is the one and only true father of this world, of his people. So if you're down and out, if you feel like that you've messed up too much or whatever, that's just the devil telling you that because he doesn't want you to return back to God. Just tell Satan to get behind you, get out of your way, put him under your feet, and turn back to the cross. Or as they say, go back to the foot of the cross. Just ask God to forgive you. And he will, because he wants you to come back. He wants you back home with him. And I said something a couple days ago. After I got off, I got to thinking about it. It didn't sit well with me. It didn't. I just want to clarify it. I made a comment about you don't have to bow down and close your eyes when you pray. If you're able and you can do that, you should do it, because you're showing reverence to a holy God. And but the point I was trying to make was that's not the only way you can pray. you can pray anytime, anywhere, without even closing your eyes, was my point. But I got thinking about that. I hope I didn't confuse anybody and make it sound like that wasn't a part of it or whatever. That you don't have to bow down to God. We do, because He is holy, and that's just us showing reverence to Him. So if I confused anybody on that or whatever, I'm sincerely sorry. I would never want to mislead anybody in the wrong direction. But I just wanted to clarify that. If you can bow down, by all means, please do it, because that's the way we reverence our holy God. But that's all I've got for today. And I hope it's a help to somebody. And I hope you all have a very blessed day. And hopefully I'll see you again in the morning. And I love you all. God bless you.